by the great Rudy Sarzo. Rudy, it's excellent to join us. We're all excited about the Devil City Angels album. It seems quite a evolution for you. I think you've played in every band on the planet by now.
Yeah, you know what? I can tell you that it's a great record because I did not get to play on it.
There's no way you could mess it up, right?
Yeah, well, that's right. But, you know, as a fan, I can be honest and say, man, what a great record this is, you know.
It is.
Yeah,
you know, it's hard. It's got that melodic hard rock, which we love, you know. I mean, so many of the so-called metal bands today, they're screaming, they're making as much noise as they can. And, you know, this band, you got Tracii Guns, Rikki Rockett, and Brandon Gibbs. You guys are making that classic melodic hard rock that, you know, comes from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, and Eric Brittenham from Cinderella got to play bass on the record because he was the original bass player. And
sure.
For some reason, he just left the band. And I have been working with Tracii in a band called Gunzo, so I guess I became like the next logical guy to call. And I had seen the band play live last November at a show, so I immediately jumped on it because I think it's a great band and great bunch of guys. Because not only am I working with Tracii currently in another group, but also I have toured with Rikki before.
Sure.
When I was a member of Whitesnake, and Poison and Whitesnake did touring back in the day. So I'm really pleased, you know, that they called me. And actually, Brandon is an amazing young singer. You know, he's
he really is.
Of modern, you know, a modern sounding singer, but very rooted in the blues. So it's perfect. I love it.
Well, you know, with so many classic bands out there still doing their thing, and certainly in need sometimes of a bass player, you know, what's the biggest difference for you as far as, you know, being with a band that's playing, you know, new original music and out there trying to create new history?
You know, that's an interesting question, but in the case of Devil City Angels, you know, I used to be in a band a long time ago called Quiet Riot.
Sure.
It was basically in the same vein of like, you know, great melodic songs.
Yeah.
So basically, you know, I've done that before, so I'm really comfortable in a situation like that.
Well, that's amazing stuff. I know you're looking forward to going out and playing on, you know, tours and new music and shows with the guys and, you know, contributing to the next album, I'm sure. You know, talk about the state of rock out there, you know, because I know you've come through the 70s and 80s and all the great years, you know. It's a different business out there, and, you know, there's certainly a, you know, lack of labels and MTV and, you know, record stores that we used to love and cherish. But what's your feeling as far as, you know, the hopes for the music business and, you know, where this next generation could take it? Yeah,
you know, I definitely everything is a factor, but I think the biggest factor is actually the lack of centralized airplay, whether it's radio or something like MTV. I mean, it's great that we have so many stations, you know, on the internet or satellite stations, you know, like Sirius and XM and so on. And we have Spotify and everything. So, you know, the fan is able to tap into any of these broadcast mediums and enjoy the music. But, you know, I got to tell you, I know the impact that MTV had on such bands as Quiet Riot and then later on with me with Whitesnake. And nothing beats that, you know.
I mean, it's better than a million radio stations playing you when they can see the personality of the band and you're getting played like every hour.
Yeah, and another thing is that what would happen was that it used to be that radio was the leader, you know, as far as airplay. Mm-hmm. And what happened when MTV came in, radio stations started following whatever was a hit on MTV. They would start playing that.
Yeah, they were definitely leaders.
Yeah.
What was that like to step out at the US Festival? You know, I know you guys, you know, were basically warmed up the stage, man. There was like close to 300,000 people out there in '83, I believe, and they were ready for a full day of hard rock and metal. And you know, when you stepped out on that stage with a Young Quiet Riot, which was barely known at that point, you know, to the mass audience, tell us about your greatest memories of that day in San Bernardino.
Yeah, I remember like it was yesterday. Actually, it was very. I'm not. It was very dramatic, basically, because we had just gotten the gig like 2 days before. We had been on tour with Scorpions, who were actually on a short run warming up to the US Festival.
Yeah.
And when we played in Denver, the show's promoter, the US Festival promoter, Barry Fay, found himself in a situation where Joe Walsh was moved from the metal day to the following day.
Yeah.
And left a slot there, and so he asked us if we wanted to do it. Of course, we had to move certain shows around because we were playing that day somewhere else.
Yeah.
So actually, our crew did not come with us. So we had some technical difficulties that were going on stage, such as my backline was not working. I was playing through the monitors, but it was such an incredible experience to be there in front of so many people. With Quiet Riot, that nothing else mattered. You just went out there and did the best that you could under whatever circumstances. As a matter of fact, there's an actual DVD that's available right now.
I was at the show and I love to relive it on that DVD. I mean, what a day!
Yeah.
Any interesting stories hanging out backstage with any of those bands? Because of course, Judas Priest and Van Halen and Motley Crue, everybody was there that day.
Everybody was there, but we didn't see anybody because as soon as we got off the stage, we towel up and went back to the airport to head out to the next show.
Wow!
Because we were in the middle of tour, yeah.
So it was like wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, and back to your own tour.
Exactly.
Wow, what a historic day. That was a great thing. And I know you're originally from Cuba, and now with all these changes where the embargoes have been lifted and people are now able to travel to Cuba and it's more interactive. What's your feelings on that and your hopes for continued collaboration between Cuban musicians and Americans?
Well, yeah, just let me clarify something. The embargo has not been officially lifted yet. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Sure.
Because that would
whatever that is technically, obviously the doors are opening.
Yeah. I mean, there's an embassy now, an American embassy in Havana, basically. That's so it's moving forward. It's still a communist country.
Yeah.
But politics aside, I have been in touch with many of the local rock musicians in Havana. I got to tell you, there's some outstanding musicians out there. And I mean, once they are able to enter the global market, things open up because there's a lot of restrictions as far as technology goes. Yeah. So like internet, it's either restricted or non-existent in most areas.
Right.
So they're not able to upload their music or YouTube videos or anything like that. But once that is lifted, it's going to be amazing to watch.
Wow, it's great to see that potential, and it's always horrible when politics get in the way of art and the ability to have creative people collaborate. Yeah,
but then you know what? Sometimes politics they fuel great art. Like, I mean, if you look back at the 60s, during the Vietnam War, I mean, some of the best music came out of that.
Yeah, protest.
Especially, music, like coming from the Doors and all the other bands that were, very protesting, the Vietnam War.
True.
Including the Beatles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know in addition to an incredible, music career, you're also involved in computers and digital animation and even created the video wall, that Dio used. Talk about, your interest in animation and how that goes together with the music.
Yeah, I was a mass communication major in school, which actually it covered all areas, whether it was radio, television, and motion picture producing and directing. And I've always seen music as basically the soundtrack to just about anything that you can visually imagine. So when the age of MTV came around and it made it almost mandatory for every band to have visuals along with their music, I thought it was a perfect marriage, of truly as an artist to be able to express yourself, through the visuals and through the audio. And so with the advancement of computers, it's taken it to the next level. So right now, all of us musicians, we're capable of making our own videos, music videos, and also to enhance that with CG, computer-generated graphics, images, CGI, and use incredible software that is actually pretty easy to learn once you spend. It's all about devoting time. Like you're devoting. So what I do is I'm really into time management. I apply certain time for my developing my musical skills and also sharing them, because I'm also giving bass lessons on Skype now. And then I also apply time to developing my video skills, and meanwhile touring and making records,
Well, it's a great balance. The visuals and music have always gone together, and anything you can do to enhance that creativity through computers is a great thing. Absolutely,
I highly recommend it to every musician, old and young.
Sure. Well, as we celebrate the Devil City Angels album, I'd like to do a little word association. If I could throw out a name, tell us what comes to mind. And of course, we were lucky enough to have you a part of this a couple years ago in North Hollywood when Kelly and Kathy Rhodes joined us for our tribute to Randy Rhoads. But talk a little bit about your friend Randy and his continued influence. I know the Randy Rhoads Remembered tributes at NAMM and everything continue to grow. Talk about your feeling about Randy's growing legacy.
Well, let's put it this way. He has such an impact in my life that I took about a year and a half of my life and devoted to writing a book about my experiences with Randy, because it's the number one question that I get asked when I travel around the world. What was it like to play with Randy Rhoads? And I could sit down, like right now, you ask me to tell you something, and I'm probably going to spend a couple of minutes talking about it. That's not enough.
Oh, sure. Scratching the surface. I know he meant so much to so many people. What is it like, though, for these younger generations that weren't even alive when Randy was alive to have such a passionate love for his music?
You know what? I love it when I get messages on social networks about young guitar players that discover Randy. And they actually they write me and they tell me about how much Randy means to them, and they are actually able to tell that he was the originator of so many techniques that the modern guitar players use today. So they go to the source, which is Randy. I mean, he had an impact, I would say, on 99% of the '80s iconic guitar players.
Well, it boggles the mind at the music that we never heard from Randy. I know there were just catalogs to come, and it boggles the mind. We hope we can continue to keep his spirit alive.
Absolutely.
Talk about what comes to mind when we say Tommy Aldridge.
Oh, monster drummer. Monster.
I mean, I know you've collaborated with him a few times now.
Many times. I played with him in OZZY, then in Whitesnake. We did Manny Keaton. We did Project Driver, and I mean he's a blessing for any bass player to play with.
I mean, the fact that he is still playing with Whitesnake, and he was there the first show David Coverdale ever did at the California Jam when he joined Deep Purple. I mean, he was of course with Black Oak, Arkansas at the time, but what an amazing run he's had. Yeah,
absolutely. God bless him, and very well deserved too.
Sure, and that brings us to David Coverdale.
Amazing rock blues singer. I mean, he's one of the top three guys in my book. You got Robert Plant, Paul Rodgers, and David Coverdale. Of course, Glenn Hughes, but I think of Glenn kind of like a Paul McCartney. Which is like a bass player that sings.
Right.
I mean, of course, we're talking about the best of the best. Sting, Glenn Hughes, Paul McCartney. Guys like that, Geddy Lee.
Sure. And how about Lemmy? What does Lemmy mean to rock?
Heavy metal, pure heavy metal. I had never, growing up, musically, when I moved to Los Angeles, I went from Miami, which was not a typical rock and roll environment.
Sure.
too sunny, right?
Yeah.
Too much of a tourist place. Then I went to L.A., and by the time I got to L.A., it was basically glam rock turning over into punk and new wave, right? So I never really got to experience a heavy metal, musicians, being surrounded by them until I went on tour with Ozzy in 1981, and Motorhead was our opening band. And it was, this is true metal. This is what metal is all about. It's not just about playing the music. It's living it. It's the lifestyle.
Well, he certainly embodies the spirit of rock and roll, today, and will be sorely missed when we lose Lemmy.
No, we're not going to lose him. He's like the Keith Richards of metal, so he's going to outlive everybody.
Right. And how about your boys in Quiet Riot? When you think about Frankie Banali and Kevin DeBro, I know you had your ups and downs with Kevin, but what should we think about when we think about that era?
Oh, very incredibly blessed to have been a part of that. Frankie remains one of my dearest, closest friends, and we have done some shows in the last couple of months together. Quiet Riot and this new band that I have with Tracii Guns, Gonzo. And as a matter of fact, in October, we're going to be doing some shows in Mexico together again. And he's always such a joy. And I'm so glad that he got to film that documentary along with Regina, his fiancée. And he did a beautiful, wonderful job on that. And he went. It wasn't like people went with financed it. I mean, I know there was a Kickstarter, but he actually had to put a lot of his own money into it, to make it come to fruition. And it's just such a beautiful statement, to the magic that was Quiet Riot, which was all of us, Kevin and Carlos and Frankie and myself,
Well, as much as we love so much of this music, I think one of the greatest things that makes us appreciate it more is a great book like Off the Rails that you wrote, about your time with Randy and Ozzy, and the documentaries, of course, that Frankie's done on Quiet Riot, and so many great documentaries out there. It really helps us appreciate the music, and that brings us to our next person. I don't know if you've seen any of the film that Robert Trujillo's made, but talk about Jaco Pastorius.
No, I've been in contact with Robert because he wanted to me at some point to be involved, and I think we had some scheduling conflicts right there. But I'm so happy that I'm so glad that he's bringing it to fruition because, he and I, we both share that same love and respect and adoration for Jaco. Like I mentioned before, I grew up in Miami. I used to watch Jaco performing around town as a local musician before he joined Weather Report. So it was very scary, I got to tell you, to see somebody that good playing around because I thought, well, there's got to be 1,000 guys this good, So it actually motivated me to really dig in and be a better bass player. It was very inspirational and scary at the same time. I mean, and then I come to realize with time that there was only one Jaco Pastorius. Just like there's only one Randy Rhoads.
Certainly. And in closing, Ronnie James Dio. What does Ronnie mean to you, and what legacy has he left on the world?
Legacy is, I joined Ronnie after I had been, touring and recording for, maybe 25 years. And I thought I had learned everything. I thought I had experienced everything. But then playing with Ronnie is a whole new level. One of the things that I take away from playing with him is about the importance of creating, no matter if you're in an age where technology makes it possible for people to share your music and not necessarily buy it. We make music because we're artists, and we must make the music. It's up to the consumer to make a decision whether they're going to share it or they're actually going to support the people that make it, that not only go to the expense and time of making such recordings for everybody's pleasure, but also, the devotion that we have to our art, keeping it alive, And I learned that from Ronnie. You don't take that into the studio. You only think about the creation, your creativity. And that is something that through, every day I think about that. Yeah. The need to create, no matter what the consequences are going to be.
Certainly. And in closing, Rudy, you've had such a great influence and experience and adventures along the way. What advice do you give to the young players today? You know, a lot of them kind of want instant gratification with a computer and, you know, Google and YouTube. But what kind of, you know, ideas do you instill in them to kind of have the dedication to master their craft and hang in there to find their own style?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much distractions going on today. And by that I mean, you know, of course you need to be in touch with your social media. But, you know, find the time, devote a time early in the day to do that, and then get off and start creating, making music. You know, it's the same technology that enables you to make a record with your band without having to depend on a massive budget from a record company. It's the same technology that could be a total distraction if you just misuse it.
Well, Rudy, we appreciate your time as always. Thank you so much. We can't wait to spread the news about Devil City Angels and seeing you out there on the road with Tracii and Gunzo and all the great music. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, and God bless.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.